The emotional high point of this engineering handbook, which is really one of my favorite parts of the book, comes when Musk is up against it, and he makes a promise, wittingly or unwittingly, to produce 5,000 cars a week. How does he do it?
Well, there's an enormous number of short sellers in 2018. This is what I said was the hell period he had. People betting against Tesla stock. And the only way he was going to survive, he felt, he did the calculation, you had to get to 5,000 cars a week. The short sellers had drones flying over the factory, counting what the 2 assembly lines could do. They had inside information. They were going nuts. It's the most shorted stock in history. And they figured out correctly that those 2 assembly lines could not do 5,000 cars a week, and it would take a year to build another factory. And he's a military history addict, and he remembers in World War II that they used to build fighter jets in the parking lots in Southern California because they had to do it so fast. So he looks at the parking lot, and he says, within a week, I want a tent that would be 3 times the size of this room, and we're going to build a 3rd assembly line. And of course, this is not exactly legal. I mean, he's always breaking rules and regulations. But there was a small thing in the law in California. You could put up a temporary tent to do auto repair. It was like for a muffler shop. He said, they can fine us later. They build this huge tent. They don't even have an ability to do an assembly line, but they take an old conveyor belt and put it on a slope. And they're able to hit 5,000 cars a week, and Tesla becomes the most valuable car company in the world.
And the slope was because the conveyor belt wouldn't otherwise work.
Right. It's how they move the cars down. And it was when he just lived on the factory floor that whole time and really, really went bonkers. I mean, there's a phrase Kimball uses and some of his friends use, which is called open loop warning, which means you're not getting feedback. You're like an unguided missile. And
you can't hear criticism.
You can't hear criticism, you can't hear nothing. And he's in a trance. So they were doing open loop warning. And this is when he really, and people think he's bad now on Twitter and other things. This is when he tweets that some British cave diver is a pedophile. This is when he says, I'm taking Tesla private, and the Saudis are going to give me enough money, and funding is secured. All these things are ongoing lawsuits, you know, and it was this hell year for him.
I have to say that as a reader, I felt like 25 hell years sometimes.
Especially in that period, and he's still, in beginning of 2019, he forces them to do an autonomous vehicle that will drive on its own because he thinks that's going to be the next big thing.